Hi, everyone. It's Steve Pemberton, the Chief Human Resources Officer at Workhuman. Thank you for joining us for our Reinvigorating Your Culture Through Your Return to Workplace Strategy. And I'm joined today in that conversation with two colleagues and friends. Rebecca Sinclair, who is the Chief People and Communications Officer for American Tire Distributors, and Aaron Falcione, the Chief Human Resources Officer for Organon. Glad to have both of you with us. How are you doing? Rebecca, we're going to start with you. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Looking forward to sharing some of our story with everyone and collaborating on what we've learned over this past year of being in a pandemic.
And Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing terrific. Really invigorated by the prospects of this discussion and from learning from yourself and from Rebecca on some of the common challenges we have.
You know, when the pandemic initially unfolded, I'm sure you saw a lot of articles about how this was going to be, the pandemic specifically, was going to be a test of the human resources and people function. Has that turned out to be the case? Has that been the case for you, Rebecca?
It has absolutely been the case. With the pandemic, we immediately went to a virtual and hybrid work environment and had to keep connected with our associates, both in how they learned, how they worked, and also in the support that they needed just to be able to keep some sanity during this time frame.
Aaron, was that similarly unfolding for you?
Exactly. I think we have that very much in common. I mean, I think this experience has been a test of our resiliency as a function, our contribution to the organization, and I think a test of our own ability to stay focused on our wellness and our ability to contribute. You know, there's that saying when you're on an airplane, they say when the air masks drop, put yours on first before helping others. I think that's really played out for the HR function. We've had to really focus on taking care of ourselves just as much as taking care of the organization and the employees that we support.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to begin by talking a bit about the current business and working environment for your team members. You know, specifically, Rebecca, tell us a little bit about what's unfolding at American Tire Distributors.
Well, we have been going through a transformation for the past 5 years, a strategic transformation for not only ourselves, but the industry that we're in. And so we had that unique challenge of taking an 80-year-old business, keeping the transformation going while we're going through this hybrid work environment and everything that we're facing. So for us, it's really like, how do we keep that agility that we're trying to have in the organization? But the challenges are, you know, we really are productive, and you hear that from all the companies. We're so productive, so productive. We are, but I think we really have to take a look at how that productivity could become a dark side as we think about the psychology of people. That's what we're really focused on right now, is the psychology of our associates and how well they're doing.
Absolutely. Aaron, tell us a little bit about Organon.
Yeah, it's in a really exciting time for us as a company. We are in the final stages of completing a preparation for launch of our company. Organon is a spinoff of Merck. It's a company that is brand new in the world, and it's set forth a bold mission of creating a healthier every day for every woman. It's a women's health focused organization, and we will be launching this company really just a few weeks from now. And so all that tireless effort of thousands of people has happened during the pandemic. We've actually stood up and we're preparing for a spinoff, doing it almost entirely remote throughout the world. It's an organization of roughly 10,000 people worldwide. 80% of them sit outside of the United States. It's incredibly diverse when you think about this particular topic of returning to work, because we have manufacturing facilities. All of our manufacturing colleagues have continued to show up at their workplace throughout even the highest levels of pandemic incident. And in many countries around the world, they've already returned to work, while others are still in lockdown, while we in the US are kind of emerging from that. So we've got this really diverse set of experiences that represents our workforce right now.
Well, and I wanted to stick with that theme of different experiences that are unfolding and whether or not there are tensions that are emerging, especially for a global entity that is just launching Are you finding that tensions or frictions existing as you're beginning to design some of these processes?
Yeah, I think there is a natural tension that exists that we are trying to navigate as an organization, as a new organization that's just being born. Um, some of the tension is I think based on some legitimate fear that exists amongst a lot of our employees who have been living in a little bit of a bubble. All of us have been operating in a bubble, and I think the notion of breaking out of this current operating style and some version of return to an office can evoke a fear. We also have the tension of showing solidarity to, I mentioned before, all of our thousands of colleagues who have been showing up at their workplace every day to produce, in our case, the medicines that are vital to our patients. Um, and so we're trying to our best to navigate that through, I think, a commitment to just transparency, having bold, inclusive conversations, and really sharing with our colleagues the kind of deliberation that we're going through as a leadership team as we make some of these decisions. We don't have all the answers. I don't think anyone really has all of the answers. But part of the solution is to engage and to start to share that some of that vulnerability.
Wonderful counsel. Rebecca, I have to imagine that you're flying two planes, right? One that is navigating this pandemic, and then the other is the transformation that you referenced earlier. You got to imagine that there's some tensions that's unfolding at American Tire Distributors.
Yes. Similarly, we have about 5,000 associates, and about probably almost 3/4 are in the field. They're essential workers. Tires make the world go round, so we have to get tires everywhere. We're the largest in the nation in terms of what that looks like. So we are navigating how that works, how we're keeping them engaged, how we're managing COVID. But at the same time, we are a digital technology company that's taking AI, analytics, machine learning, and really creating this powerful ecosystem for our specific space, which is that distribution of what the manufacturers are looking for tires and what our customers are going to need to thrive and drive in the future. And so we have this humble organization that's grounded in our eye care values. And we don't want to lose that from a customer experience perspective, but we're also trying to bring this sophisticated, insight-driven culture at the same time. So we've really upped our game on very modern, connected leader and capabilities and things that we're trying to move forward in the business.
So, Rebecca, how are you identifying, the sources and places of tension? I mean, Aaron, talked about certainly one of them, as are you, people on the front lines, for example. And Aaron, made an important point in that, they've kind of proven themselves to the degree that they ever needed to in terms of their commitment and productivity and efficiency. I know you're seeing that, as well. Are those sources of tension? And if so, how do we, mitigate those?
That's a great question, Steve. And what I would say is we have really tried to open up our lines of communication. So not only do we do human resources, I do communications. And so we have great digital technology. We can reach every deskless worker out in our DC. So we have gone high touch using omni-channel communication. So whether it's broadcast videos, whether it's town halls that we're now broadcasting to all of our associates, we're finding that the more we keep listening to them, we hear their questions, and we make sure that we get a response back to them, and we do tons of listening sessions. So keeping them calm that the business is progressing, the sales are good, all of the work that we're doing for productivity is there. Our engagement surveys have actually come in and said we pulsed right after we went out on COVID, and then we pulsed again actually just about a month ago. And our scores continue to go up, and our associates are actually saying to us, hey, the senior team is even more coherent now that you're on video. The messages are clear. We feel engaged. What's going on? But we make sure not to exclude our frontline workers because they are so important because they touch the customers each and every day. And we want them to have pride in what's going on. So I would say that's part of it. The COVID has certainly been a big deal for us to deal with out there. We're on the front lines every day distributing tires. So we've had to do a lot around our COVID care programs, around our We Care relief funds, making sure that we are there every step of the way for our associates. But I think the biggest challenge that we're seeing is this virtual work world. It's hybrid and we're productive, but now the bookends are getting a little bit bigger, right? We're working on the front end, we're working on the back end, and we don't want that. And so some companies have gone to, I'm not going to work on Fridays, we'll take the day and think. We actually have decided as an executive team, we need to actually change our operating model so that we can really be more agile. And that means we have to make more time, we have to have more concise meetings, and figure out how to give people some of their life back so they can start to engage in the healthy things that now that COVID's going away and the vaccine is here, they can start to take ownership for their lives again.
That point is well taken on making communication central to your strategy, and the pulse feedback that you're getting certainly appears to be validating it. Aaron, you have a different kind of challenge because you're launching here at the same time, but know full well that there are going to be tensions and frictions. To what degree are you able to anticipate those and then put things in place, even though it's not yet fully operational?
I think to some extent we can forecast a bit of what the return to our workplace looks like. You mentioned it. It is a unique challenge. We are starting a new company with a very distinct culture. As we started this journey of building a new company that's subsequently going to be called Organon, we made a very clear decision that we were going to build this company culture first. That the very first things we would do as a leadership team was define and articulate our values, our standards of behavior, the kind of culture and the employee experience, what that was going to be like. And because of that intense focus on culture, I think it adds a layer of complexity to this hybrid work model where we don't see each other in person. I think we recognized already that in-person collaboration is more spontaneous. It's more, it yields something different. And I think I would dare say something a little bit better, something a little bit more human. We collaborate over a cup of coffee. We uncover problems that we have in common. We may even diagnose and solve those problems real time. It doesn't always happen that way over this medium. This medium is incredible right now, and we're it's amazing the kind of advances we've made in technology. I do also want to recognize the human experience, which is still largely grounded in in-person interaction, all the imperceptible cues that we pick up from one another, the subtext and the body languages and things that just convey meaning that don't always transfer through through video. And so we have made it pretty clear that we've addressed it at the polls. We've said 100% remote work is probably not right for us right now as a company. And the 5-day in the office work week is dead. So we've taken those two extremes off the table. And now we've got to figure out what lies in between and what's appropriate for each individual. How do we apply flexibility and allow our teams to adapt to where the work is best done? And some days that's going to be in the office and some days that's going to be at home.
Yeah, and that's a very similar evaluation process that we're going through at Workhuman. Is knowing that some of this you're not really going to know until it's fully in operation, and you'll tweak and adjust and revise, because that is kind of the nature of how this work will unfold. Now, I do think we feel like we have to be absolutely perfect out of the gate, but the reality is, because we're dealing with such different dynamics, we're not really going to be perfect. And so, there's going to have to be some allowances, I think, for learning as we go. Or economies of learning, I guess we might call them. Well, I wanted to ask a bit about, some of the common pitfalls or myths that you feel you might need to dispel with employees. Specifically, there's a ton out there in the business media, of course, about returning to the workplace. There's a lot of opinions that are unfolding, of course. Are you seeing some of those things, Rebecca, kind of seep into some of your conversations, and how are you addressing them?
Absolutely. We too are in a hybrid work world, and we're going to be when we come back. We're in fact clearing out our entire building, making it less dense, making it more town halls, meeting spaces, so people can have that flexibility to come back and forth, because humans do need humans. We do know that. But I would just say, what I would say is we're going to create as safe a working environment as we can. We want people to get together. I got together with my team just 2 weeks ago. They flew in from across the country. Everybody was vaccinated that came in. We were safe, wore our masks. But you don't really realize till you get together that you need that. And it really refueled us knowing we won't see each other for a while longer. But in terms of what's something to kind of debunk, I would just say we've doubled down on having an agile quarterly performance and development culture where let's focus on giving feedback and learning at the same time while we're being productive. And that's been a big shift for our leaders. So a lot of folks thought we can't do all of that at the same time because we're not there. We're actually finding we can use this video format to actually create an experience. So we kind of debunk that you can't learn and develop yourself while you're out working there. And then I think the other part that we're really trying to debunk, and that goes back to my comment about the operating models of most of our organizations, is we really have to sit down and say, how do we help structure work so people have the right amount of flexibility? Because mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, personally, you need to be able to have time to re-energize, to innovate, to think and do things. And so we don't have the exact answer for that yet, I'll tell you, but I know it's hot on our list. Is we want to be able to say we can be healthier, and there's a way to do this and maintain engagement. So we do a ton with our associates, touching them, working with them, and really focusing on a lot of social initiatives as well. So I would like to say we can learn, we can grow, we can be productive, and we can be healthy. And it's going to take the leadership team and all the leaders to really do that with the associates.
You know, I've always described human resources as the function really that is most closely connected to humanity, because we see that everything that unfolds, we know when you're having a baby, we know when you go back to school, we know when you buy a home. You know, this is just the nature of how we are connected, and yet it just seems to me that I see so much more emphasis on that human element in our workplaces and workspaces, things like mental health and the impacts of isolation and that just seems to me, Aaron, to be a new chapter perhaps in the world of human resources that, while we have generally talked about it, it just seems to be a much greater focus than I've ever seen it in my 20 plus years in human resources. Is that what you're seeing?
100%. I mean, there's this new age of, I would say, we used to talk about work-life balance as an example. I think we're starting to now think of it as work-life integration. The whole person shows up at work, and the interesting paradox of this challenge we've gone through for the last, what feels like a long time, let's say the last 14, 15 months, is that while we've been forced to be distant, we've at the same time been able to zoom into each other's households. And I've met my colleagues' pets, their children, their spouses. I've seen them, when they've just got out of bed and when they're not, these are interesting insights that we've gotten. And I feel in some strange, paradoxical way, a little bit closer, even though I haven't physically seen people in quite some time. I think that's reached a point of diminishing returns at this point. So we're actually all eager to start to see each other. The biggest tension I'm feeling is the instinct to hug someone. We still can't do that, but I'm actually in the office today with a couple of my colleagues, and it was hard when I saw them for the first time it was this instinct to just embrace, and we can't do that yet. So I'm looking forward to it. I will also say, Steve, one of the other things that we are acutely aware of, and in particular as a women's health company, is the disproportionate impact that this pandemic has had on women. And especially as we think about returning to the workplace, 2/3 of the caregivers in this, at least in the U.S. and typically around the world, are women. women, they take on a disproportionate responsibility for some of the daily support that extends to a family. We know that is the dynamic, and so we have to be extremely sensitive and thoughtful as we plan our return to work. We make sure that is done in a way that is inclusive, that recognizes the unique challenges that impact our each of our employees, and to back to the original point, takes into account the whole person, not just the worker, but the whole person in every aspect of their life.
Yeah, by the way, I find myself too caught in the social cues. I get caught between a handshake and a fist tap and a half embrace, and I think it might take us a little bit of time to figure that all out, for sure. Yeah. Well, Rebecca, Aaron made a wonderful point about the differential impact that the pandemic is having on certain, populations. And you mentioned, frontline responders. And you said earlier that tires make the world go round. Well, so do women. And so did some of what Aaron reflect in terms of that focus, does that resonate for you personally? Is that part of what you're seeing at American Tire Distributors as well?
Absolutely. And we started our Drive Like a Girl campaign to make sure that all of our women knew in so many regards, whether it's, what flexibility do they need, right? Because you got kids that are schooling right next to you, right? And you have to take time and really be with them. You have all kinds of recruitment we're doing. We still want to be a place that women want to be attracted to. So we've done a lot around that, and development and resource groups related to that. But I think we've also found that our folks are really wanting to do more from a societal perspective. That's been a huge calling as well. And so our campaigns then roll over to some of our cultural initiatives. So we have a YWCA program because we want to do more for women in need. We do things with some of the medical workers. So we try and give back to some of those folks that are in need. And what we have found is even during a pandemic across the country, we have 130 distribution centers. Our folks are very willing, if they can't go donate their time right now, they're very willing to donate their money and to try and build kits, do things that will help women. So not only here at ATD, but we're trying to help within the community because women are suffering disproportionately.
The time has flown as it does when you're talking and having such a wonderful conversation like this. I wanted to wrap up by asking each of you, what has the pandemic made you most appreciative of? And Aaron, we'll start with you.
I think it's made me most appreciative of this I guess I'd say this spirit of experimentation. We were not prepared for this, and yet we still thrived. We weren't sure if we would be able to continue to operate, and yet we did, and we were even more productive. And so I think it's yielded a different sense of confidence, maybe even courage to try something new, to experiment. I like to say to my team, we reserve the right to get smarter.
And Rebecca, same question. What has the pandemic made you most appreciative of?
That we are truly not so different at the end of the day. We are actually more the same, and we have the same struggles and the same challenges and hopes and dreams. And work is a lot. It means a lot for people. This is sometimes their outlet as well as, their home when they're working from home. And we really believe that our people are the soul of our company and they're our family. And I think more than anything, we have found this year that our family has come to the need and the caretaking of one another. And the business has done well during all of this, but it's really been all about that shared humanity.
A shared humanity and a wonderful human family. Well, Rebecca and Aaron, thank you for such a wonderful and engaging conversation. I look forward to seeing you in person really, really soon. And we'll have those social protocols figured out by then. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Aaron.